Marriage has been on a decline in the United States for decades, so it makes sense that that trend would affect the African American population in much the same way. And this is why I think it's important to look at Black marriage and divorce statistical data. Often the racial gap is an indicator of some hidden or unpopular problem within the Black community. So 8 important Black marriage and divorce metrics. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So we know that Black marriage rates have been on decline over the years, and there's some interesting data there. Also, divorce rates are yielding some interesting data as well. But before we get into that, let's talk for a moment about where this data is coming from. The data that we used here came from a national longitudinal study of the youth. This particular year was 1979. So that means the survey participants were born between 1957 and 1964. And they were interviewed at intervals beginning when they were between the ages of 14 and 22. And as the name suggests, the first year they were interviewed was 1979. So we have NLSY79. Okay, moving along. Now the data in this study is broken down into 3 categories. One category is Black, another category is Hispanic, and a third category is all others, which means that white and Asian would be in the same category, right? All others. So you have Black, Hispanic, all others. And the 8 marriage and divorce statistics that we're going to take a look at are the average age, the percent married, first divorce, years married, percent remarried, time to remarriage, second divorce, and years married. Over time, the opinion of what a good age to get married at has changed more and more. Ultimately, the age for females is going up. It's getting a lot higher. Women, mostly women, tend to think that they should get married later on. For the men, it's been relatively stable. The men have remained more traditional, while the women have become more modern. The average age at first marriage. The average age for an African American men and African American women combined at first marriage was 26.2 years. The next closest category was the all others category with an average of 24.2 years. So with that, we see on average, members of this group married 2 years earlier than Blacks do. And last, we have the category comprised of Hispanic men and women with an average of 23.8 years, making them the youngest to marry on average. So we've established that the average age at first marriage for Black men and women in this survey was 26.2 years. So we know what the average age of the participants was, but what is the percentage of them who ever got married in the first place? I mean, not everybody's going to get married. So how many of them, what percent of them got married? For Black people, 68.3% get married at some point. Meanwhile, those in the Hispanic category boast a higher average of 84.6%. The highest percentage of those that ever married belongs to all other categories at 90.4%. So that there is a huge difference. As far as the percentage getting married, Blacks have the lowest percentage. And it's almost 20 percentage points. In fact, it's over 20 percentage points lower than that of the highest category. So how many of those that did marry for the first time ended up getting a divorce at some point? Black Americans have the highest rates of divorce. Obviously, there are strong links to changes in cultural values and the messages that we're sending to our children. All of that has a huge effect. So of the first marriages that ended in divorce, the percent of Black marriages ending in the divorce of the survey respondents was 47.9%. This was the highest among the respondents. Next was the Hispanic category at 45.5%. And we have the all other category, the lowest percentage of first marriages ending in divorce. The percentage for all others was 43.7%. So of those marriages that ended in divorce, what was the average length of the first marriage? We took a look at that. The average length of a marriage in the Black category is 9.3 years. In the next closest group was the all others category at 9.1 years. and then the longest length of time belonged to the Hispanic category at 10.9 years. So the next question is, how many of these divorcees, the ones that got married, got divorced, how many of those individuals got married again? How many married for a second time? The all others category, made up of mostly of white Americans, leads the way in remarriage after divorce. 68.6% of divorcees in this category will eventually remarry. Now they're followed by the members of the Hispanic category, who remarry at a rate of 54.8%. But finally, the Black population at 52.4% is the least likely to remarry after a first marriage ending in divorce. Again, the Black group is the most or the least likely to remarry after the first marriage ends in divorce. So now, for those that do decide to get remarried, how long does it take them before they get together with someone else? And we know that there can be different reasons for that length of time. Some people might want to take their time before they get remarried. Some people may be anxious to get remarried and just can't find a partner. There's a lot of different reasons that go in there, but what is the average length of time that it takes or took members of our survey population to remarry? African Americans on average have a longer time period between their first and second marriages than do members of other racial categories. The average length of time to remarry for Blacks is 4.6 years or 54 months. The next closest group in comparison was the all others group at 4.3 years or 51 months. And lastly, the group with the shortest period of time between marriages is the Hispanic category. Members of the Hispanic category average 4.2 years or 50 months between marriages. So the next question would be, of those who are bold enough to get remarried, how many of those second marriages ended in divorce? What was the percentage of second marriages that ended in divorce? Now, in this area, Blacks had the lowest divorce rate among those who marry a second time at 33.2%. So, fortunately, it appears that Blacks who give marriage a second shot have the greatest chance of making it work. Granted, there's still a high divorce rate across all the segments, but Black Americans have the lowest. Now, of course, many of those second marriages ended in divorce, but on average, how long did they last? Across the spectrum, in all racial categories, second marriages ending in divorce lasted a shorter amount of time than the first marriages that ended in divorce. Okay, so we went through the charts and graphs. Let's put all of this in perspective. What are some of the key differences that this surveyed population group taught us about marriages as far as it pertains to Black marriage and Black divorce, and how that kind of compares to other racial categories? Is there much of a difference? If so, where do we see those differences happening? So let's recap this, and we'll just go down the list. Black people tended to be the oldest when marrying for the first time at 26.2 years of age. In first marriages, Blacks had the highest percentage of their marriages lead to divorce at 47.9%. Of the first marriages leading to divorce, Black marriages lasted on average 9.3 years. Of Black first marriage divorcees, 52.4% remarried. Blacks had the lowest remarriage rate of all categories. The average length of time until Black remarriage was 4.6 years. Black people waited the longest to remarry. Black second marriages resulted in divorce at the lowest percentage. 33.2% of Black second marriages ended in divorce. Of second marriages leading to divorce, Black marriages lasted on average 6 years. And lastly, when divorce is the result in the second marriages among Blacks, those second marriages lasted on average 3.3 years less time than the first marriage. In other words, the second marriage was 3.3 years shorter on average. So there's a lot to unpack here. Just wanted to do an overview video And I think what I'll do is I'll unpack each one of these segments in a separate video so that we can kind of dedicate the time to that. And in the meantime, do two things for me. One, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And two, take care of yourself, family. Peace.